Did there come a time in your life when Lyle began to intercede on your behalf, particularly with your father?
Yeah, there came a time when Lyle started to intercede for me with all kinds of things.
Okay. Well, let's start out, though, with this. Was there a time that Lyle rescued you from drowning?
Yes.
And would you tell us how that came about?
Dad took us out on the Sunfish. He had this little sailboat for the lake, and the lake had a big round part, and he would take us out into the middle of the lake. And on this particular occasion, he wanted Lyle and I from the middle of the lake to swim to shore.
Now, before you go on, had your father told you scary stories about the lake?
Yeah, he would tell me about the snapping turtles in the lake, which weren't really stories. I mean, they were true. He would just tell me about how the snapping turtles would bite people in the lake, and he would have a lot of fun while he was telling the stories, and then he would, jokingly try to push, right after one of the stories, Lyle or I into the water, and it wasn't that bad. It was just scary when you actually had to be in the lake.
Okay. Now, on this particular occasion when your brother rescued you, you said you were in the center portion of the lake and your father wanted you to swim from there to the shore.
Yes, he wanted Lyle and I.
Okay. And did you feel you could do that?
I wasn't sure. I'd never done it before.
Do you know how old you were?
I think it was 8.
Okay.
9.
Okay. So what happened?
He had Lyle go in first and swim, and then after Lyle he had me. Not after, but right after. And so Lyle swam, and I didn't want to, but he got me in the water, and I started to swim.
How did he get you in the water?
He pushed me in the water.
I'm sorry?
He pushed me in the water.
He being your father?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
And about halfway there, I didn't feel I was going to make it. And by the time I got even more there, I started to swallow in water, and it made me real scared, and I was just pushing with the water, and then I thought of the snapping turtles, and I just panicked.
And what did you do?
I started screaming for help.
And what happened?
And Lyle swam back over and grabbed me and lifted me up in the water, and then just took me to shore and said, "It's going to be all right."
So he was able to get you ashore?
Yes.
And what happened after that?
My dad sailed over to the shore and was not happy.
What do you mean when you say your dad was not happy?
He was extremely upset. He grabbed us, he threw us on the boat. He told Lyle never to do that again, that I should have been able to make it, and that I would have been able to make it. He just didn't give me a chance to make it, and that he shouldn't be, helping me like that.
And then what happened?
He took Lyle and I out onto the middle of the lake and had Lyle swim to the other side of the shore, and then had me swim to the other side.
Do you recall an incident where your father physically assaulted you on the home tennis court?
Yes.
Do you know how old you were when that occurred?
I guess I was starting to play tennis, so I was probably 11 or 12.
And by the time you were 11 or 12, did you feel that your brother was your friend?
Yes, he had. My relationship with my brother began to change when I was 8 and 9. He was starting to protect me a lot from other kids, and I was still weary about the relationship, but...
Why were you leery about the relationship?
Just because Lyle and I would roughhouse a lot together, and he would pick on me a lot as the younger brother, and Dad would egg him on, and I sort of looked at Dad and Lyle as the same when I was real young.
Okay. Now, by the time you're 11 or 12, that's changed?
Yeah, because he would do things for me, like at school or at different places.
Can you remember, Mr. Menendez, the first time it occurred to you that your brother was on your side with respect to your parents?
With respect to my parents?
Yeah.
Yes.
And what was that incident, the first time you felt he was your ally?
That was when I was 11. I was studying for final exams in 6th grade, and there was a house being built down the street, and my parents had left the house, And so I went outside just to kick around the soccer ball with Velvet, my dog, and I heard some noises coming, and so I went down the street to see who it was, and it was Brendan, a kid that I knew. And
Was Brendan a kid that you were friends with when you were at Hopewell Valley School?
yeah,
Did he live in the neighborhood?
yeah,
Was he, in fact, your only friend in the whole neighborhood?
yes.
Sustained. The answer is stricken.
Did you have any friends besides Brendan in the neighborhood?
No.
Okay, so you found Brendan inside the house?
Yeah, and he was playing with two other girls inside
Okay.
the house. It was a new house being built, so... Anyway, the police showed up almost as soon as I got there, and I, not being aware of the situation, didn't get out of the house quick enough. But I ran because I was scared, and the police got Brendan and I and asked us where we lived. And I told them where I lived, and Brendan went to his house, and he told me to go back to my house and that the police was going to go talk to my parents. And so I hid out in the forest, and I heard the policeman talking to my brother.
Okay, and what did your brother... so you heard the policeman telling your brother that you had been in this house?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened after that told you that Lyle was your friend?
Well, I heard the policeman saying to Lyle that a little kid like me at the time should not be in this house because there could be, he said, hobos and bums at the time, and I was just so afraid that Lyle was going to tell Mom and Dad. I was sure of it, and I figured that he had to. And so I didn't say anything to Lyle, and Lyle didn't say anything to me, and I wrote out a big, long entry in my journal and left it on the table so that my parents would see it before they got really angry at me and understand the situation.
I don't understand. You wrote an entry in your journal about what?
About what happened that night.
Where you would...
Just pretending it was my diary, but leaving it open on the table.
So that you could explain how you wound up in the house?
So I knew my mom would snoop and read, so she would just read it and understand what happened before Lyle told Mom and Dad what happened.
Okay.
But he never did.
And you did that for what purpose? Why did you want her to know what happened before Lyle told her?
So that I wouldn't get punished as bad.
Okay. So what happened?
Lyle never told Mom and Dad.
And how did that make you feel about him?
I began to realize that Lyle was on my side.
Now let's go back then to the tennis court when you're 11 or 12. What happened between yourself and your father that day?
I was on the same side of the court with Lyle, with Dad, and Lyle was on the other side. And I wasn't moving my feet enough. I had to keep my feet moving for all the time I was on the tennis court, and I was tired, and I was dragging my feet. Finally, he just got too angry with me after telling me enough times to move my feet.
Who's he?
My father.
Okay.
So he just grabbed me and lifted me up onto the fence, a few feet off the ground, and ripped my shirt. And Lyle came running over, and he wasn't going to interfere with Dad, but he just said, it's okay, calm down, quietly behind Dad. Dad didn't hear me.
He's making this gesture to whom?
To me.
To try to calm you down?
Yeah, I was crying.
And why do you think he was trying to calm you down?
Because he loved me.
Objection sustained. The answer is stricken.
Would your father react in a certain way if you were crying versus if you weren't crying when
Yes.
he was angry?
Yes, if I wasn't crying, it wouldn't be as bad. And so he was trying to get me to stop crying so Dad wouldn't.
Okay. And what happened after that?
Dad threw me in the basement and just lectured me. Nothing really happened that bad.
And why does this stick out in your mind? Why is this so significant that your brother did this?
Because the incidences where my brother helped me, either with other people or with my mom and dad, just really stick out in my mind. I don't know why.